We should be all set.
Okay, I'd like to call the August IDA board meeting to order. Alie, could you roll call, please?
Craig Leggett.
Here.
Where's everybody? Michael Grasso,
Present.
Dan Bruno,
Here.
Mary King,
Here.
Nick Caimano.
Here, and welcome back.
Thank you. Dave O'Brien.
Here.
Okay, we have six out of the 10 present.
I think Jenny Sullivan's on the way. So I need a motion to approve the minutes of the June 14th IDA board meeting. Moved by Mr. Caimano. Do I have a second? Mr. Bruno, any corrections, omissions? Yeah, that's a question on that. Yes, we do. No, Army Corps engineers suggest we do it. So, I got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Fine.
Current accounts payable, please review current account payable.
Jared Enterprises, Tom Jared.
Yes.
Black Dog contract with us. It's a 500. Is there an annual postage charge as well? Does that include a certain amount of updates?
No, the $500 was, this $500 was special because we needed to get our stuff posted for minutes and for this meeting,
Yeah.
especially the TDI resolution. So with only one person knowing how to do it, I asked Black Tie to do it, so it'll be in compliance. In case people question it. So, but no, I think we.
There's
pay
an annual domain fee.
domain fee and
Mhm.
hosting fee.
Mhm.
Other than that, we just send a case by on a as needed basis. Need a motion to approve if you've done reviewing them. Mr. Leggett, second by Mr. Caimano. Roll call, please.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to skip here and I want to go to the CHPE TDI project resolution. Josh joined us from Burlington, so I thought we'd get him first so he can find his way back to Burlington after he stops at Martha's Ice Cream and gets one of the best ice creams in the whole country.
I gotta tell you, the roads are busy, so I think the economy must be booming in this county right now because there's traffic everywhere.
It
It is. I went by Martha's, it's jammed.
Yeah.
I had red raspberry on the way. The pistachio was good enough to stop by and get on the way.
The village of Fort Anne looks like New York City right now.
It's absolutely, it's like that all the time. You wondered why we're concerned about traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many, I think at one time that Stewart's all is a business Stewart was. They get traffic counts at one time. One manager told me they get traffic counts of more than 4,000 cars go by there a day. So that tells you how busy it is, just the main traffic going up through and into Whitehall and to Vermont and up north to the Champlain. So we have been working with CHP TDI, specifically Josh and Todd Singer. Over Todd's on the phone. Hi, on the Zoom. Hi, Todd.
Hey, Dave. Greetings.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for coming down, Josh. So we've been working with them. We came to agreement on the pilot terms, and I sent you the resolution as well as the finding statement and as well as the updated resolution. So I think we're all set to go. I would like to take either Todd or Josh, take a few minutes and tell us the status of the project as they see it and what we can expect from here.
Sure, I can do that. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here. I'll be very quick because I think most of you know about the project, but just give me some quick, if you're not fully familiar. So we're attempting to build a 339-mile HVDC transmission line from Canada to New York City. So it's putting two cables in the ground this size from Quebec to Astoria, Queens, within Washington County. There's none of the projects in Warren County. It's 41 miles along roads and mainly the railroad, and then it's 6 miles in the lake off of Putnam. So we come on land at Putnam Station, basically go down Route 22 to Whitehall, and then along the road tracks until we're out of Washington County. So we've been working on developing the project for about a decade. It's a very large infrastructure project, a challenging project to develop and construct. I won't go over the details of the IDA agreement because you folks all have that. What I will say is that I do want to thank Dave and other folks, Alie, their attorneys, for working with us really over the last 6 months. They put in a lot of time, and I really appreciate it. I think that the agreement that hopefully will be approved is a really fair agreement. I think it's mutually beneficial to our company because it gives us long-term tax certainty, which is really important for financing a project like this. You don't know what your taxes are going to be in 20 years. It's very challenging to finance it up front. And I think it gives the county long-term certainty about the revenue that they'll be getting every year due to the project. And in addition, the IDA negotiated a pretty good community host agreement, so additional payments on top of the pilot payments. So appreciate all the effort and happy to answer any questions. In terms of the status of the project, we fit the project into a very good, we think it's a good opportunity to commercialize the project, and that's a request for proposal that the state of New York put out, essentially trying to get new transmission built into New York City and to bring renewable energy over that new transmission. We responded to a proposal this proposal the state put out back in mid-May with our partner Hydro-Quebec. And the state is evaluating those proposals. There's 4 other competitors. They have indicated they make a decision in the month of September. With the change with the governor last week, we haven't heard that that's the decision making at all, but you don't know how that could play in. So if we and we are optimistic about our chances there. We don't know if we won or not, but we're feeling optimistic. If we are successful there, we will then go to finance the project at the end of the year. And we would be starting construction in Washington County, we hope, in 2022. We do expect that one of the first places we'll start construction along this whole route is in Washington County. So hopefully that's enough, Dave, without too much time.
Well, that's great. I appreciate the update. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to get 6 miles through Hampton. Oh, well.
Probably not.
You have to redraw the map, I think.
I can do that. I'm not sure the other towns would appreciate that, but my residents would. So, resolution you have in front of me, I will ask for someone to make a motion to adopt this resolution.
After I've gone cross-eyed reading it, I'll move it.
Moved by Nick, do I have a second? Mr. Bruno, seconds it. Any questions or comments or?
My only comment is, you notice that Warren County is leading the fight here for Washington County.
We're always welcome our partners and we'll return the favor sometime in
I'll
the
be
future.
expecting a dinner somewhere.
Okay,
I think so.
I will ask for roll. I will ask for,
Oh, just
Craig, go ahead.
clarification, so this is a lease type of agreement as we usually have with a single property and such, so now it still works the same way, even though you're going underground and all of that. but
actually, it does.
Facility is that 5-inch
Mhm.
cable and
See, normally the base tax is on the base property, but on most of their route, except I think in Rockland County, it's all state, county, town right of ways on the roads. And then the rest of it, most of the rest is either in the water or in the railroad. So there is no sublying base taxes on this, it's just the cable itself. We hope someone doesn't get industrious and try and dig down and steal some of those cables out of the ground. But I'm sure it's buried well enough that they're not going to get to it. You're gonna have a master lock on over it, encasing so they can't get through it.
Yeah, we'll protect it. The last people on earth that we want that cable to get impacted is us. So we want to put it in the ground and not touch it for as long as possible.
I have a question about that, if I may.
You may.
It's 390 miles, whatever it was. Most of it underwater.
2/3 of it's underwater.
2/3 were under. What happens? I mean, we got the high tension wires out here. We can see the boys go up there, put the wire up there. But you have a problem. You have somebody to go there and fix it now.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be able to finance all sorts of components of this. One of that would be what happens if somehow the cable failed.
Right.
And you think about what's the worst case scenario for the cable failing, it would probably be in a really deep part of Lake Champlain in early February, right?
Yeah.
So there will be a company on stand, not hanging out by Lake Champlain, but on call to come out and go out there and break the ice and pull up the cable and fix it and then put it back down. So, this is pretty amazing technology, but it's not new technology and very popular on offshore wind. So you can imagine there's a lot of offshore wind in Europe. We're not seeing as much in America, but they're putting these turbines way out at sea in the North Sea, and then they're bringing the power, and they're bringing these HVDC cables. They're doing similar things with hydropower up in the Scandinavian countries and bringing that down into lower Europe with HVDC. So this is not new technology. It's tried and true. There's ways to fix it if it breaks, but the first thing is to not have it break.
Now, is that part of the reason for redundancy is two cables?
No, that's the way the system operates, is with the two cables.
Okay. Any other questions? I will say that this was a long process, anytime 9 different opinions involved. It becomes hard to get through. I was gracious to work with Josh and Todd in working this out, and the nice part is the economic benefit payments are coming to the IDA to help with economic development. And that's a good item for us, a good item for the entire counties. So we'll see from there. I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Craig Leggett,
yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Good, carried. Well, thanks, Josh. You can stick around or leave or whatever you want to do.
I think I'll leave, go get an ice cream. Thank you all. Nice to meet Dave in person for the first time. We've met over Zoom probably too many times, and thank you all for your support. Appreciate it. And we will let you know well in advance when we're going to start construction. And and we'll of course let the county know when NYSERDA is making a decision.
We have met in person a couple times before this.
Okay.
First, County, the Washington County IDA, we sat in the room and talked. That was in October of 2019.
Yeah, okay, that's true. I guess the pandemic is sort of.
Yeah. And there was one other time, but
I think it'd be very nice if you to leave early. Or Martins. Actually, it's nice.
Hey, just in the
Yeah.
overall plan, so you'll start in Washington County. You pick up segments all along the way and connect them all like this, and then that all takes how long?
Yeah, 4 years, build it. So what we need to do before we can start construction outside of the financing piece, which is obviously a challenge, is we have to get the final design approved for each inch of this line by the state. It's called the EM&CP. So they permit it and then they say exactly where it's going. We kind of have a conceptual design, but not a final design. So we will do, we'll have to submit that by segment. And we think one of the first segments we'll submit is really kind of Putnam to Whitehall, Putnam to Fort Anne. Once that's approved, we'll then start construction on that segment, and then we'll keep filing these EM&CPs. But we will have crews working across New York State. So we're not gonna have one crew doing 339 miles. It'll be a whole different crew, obviously doing the marine installation. Champlain's actually the easiest installation for us because it's just work off a ship. But it'll be, I think it'll be really exciting. For example, we'll bring the cable, a 22-mile reel of cable up the canals from New York City, up the Hudson, up the canals. Then we'll have to build a boat in Lake Champlain to install that cable. That's just Lake Champlain. Hudson River is sort of a different strategy. Land is different. So a lot of work to build a project like this, but it'll be bringing renewable energy to New York City, hopefully for decades and decades and decades. So, there's one of these that was that's built in New England. It was built in 1976. Goes from Montreal to Massachusetts. It's overhead, not underground. And I think that provides the most amount of energy into New England. It's the single source of energy into New England right now. They're completely relying on that transmission line and the hydropower from Quebec for a good chunk of the power. So we're hoping to replicate that 30 years later.
How much power is it still available from that source?
Yeah, so they have excess power. They really built a lot of hydro dams, and they don't need to build more hydro dams for this project. And so they have enough to supply New York City over our line. So it's a 1250 megawatt line. That's 10.3 terawatt hours of electricity. To put that in perspective, as a Vermonter, that's quite a bit more than Vermont would use an entire year. So it's a lot of power.
you plan for 1,250 megawatts. The loss of the nuclear plant down there, they lost 3,000 megawatts. And it's also my understanding, if my memory banks are clear, is that there are generation stations in New York City that need to start closing down.
Yeah, so, yep, you're right, the nuclear power plant in Westchester County finished closing in May. And then what is really replacing that is gas plants that were built down in Hudson Valley. That's not where New York policy and law wants to go. They want to replace that with renewable energy. So, and I should also mention, we do have an option, unclear if it's what NYSERDA will choose, but to build we'll call it an electricity on-ramp in Scotland, New York to south of Albany. So we could bring in renewable energy from New York as well. So we kind of have two options. Option A is all from Canada. Option B is from Canada and also from New York. So we're working with a solar developer called ConnectGen, who would build hundreds and hundreds of megawatts of solar in New York and then ship it on the line into Easttown, New York.
So the question I'm leading to is that you plan for 1,250, how come you didn't?
That's as high as the technology can go. People have asked us, well, why don't you put in 4 cables? Getting one project permitted and developed as hard enough. So if we can pull this off, we'll be pretty happy.
See, that's a question I've never asked you before, in all our conversations.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, and
Thanks,
the
Josh.
rest of the meeting goes well. Thank you.
Now Pete and Joe can talk all the time.
Yeah, right.
All right, thanks, Dave. I'm gonna drop too. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.
All right.
So back to our agenda delineation update. Included in your package is a small map. And I'd like to refer to that. We have a discussion with NCES and Jared Engineering tomorrow about what we want to do, but I want to fill you in as a board on where we stand. Basically, I know we got an email in that talked about purchasing the land. But basically, we go to the wetlands, and why logging was so detrimental to this project is that lots 21 through 24 in the IDA piece of property were already preservation. Ginny, he's got a big map if you want to look at it. Preservation, there was some preservation in there from mitigation we did for the airport, but the logging created much more wetlands. So that's one of the areas that Mr. Connell has been concentrating on, concerned that we don't disturb that property. He was also concerned about any logging to be done. He's concerned that in the future, while we may not say we do it, the IDA in the future may do it. So that hence led to the requirement to have a resolution to show John we've taken action to say no more logging in the park without Army Corps of Engineer approval. So that's the property that Mr. Collum wants to purchase. And pardon?
How many lots?
There's 1, 2, 3 lots in the piece called IDA. The reason that piece IDA is, memory serves me, Nick and Bruce can remind me, is that that was largely wetlands anyways. And they're going to use that to put the road through to get to those other lots. There was never any infrastructure done to any of those lots at all. So the value of those lots, having to develop infrastructure, would far outweigh what we could ever get for those properties. Consider, I think that Jarrett said it was $6,600 a foot road, sewer, water, electricity in there for anyone who wants to purchase out there. So that's what I want to say is the easy part of it. We were talking about with the delineation to make that forever wild. But if we put the deed restrictions on that are required, then to sell it, get off our rolls for $10,000, and he has interest in it for more or less nature preserve, the same thing. But we need to figure out what the requirements of Army Corps of Engineers will be. So we can't sell that for a while to get the determination. Basically follow this through. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 are all upland lots, which means that they are basically wetlands free. I think 19 and 20 has a small piece towards the point, is pointing down on the paper, but the balance of it is open. Those are the lots we're proposing selling to Kilcoynes. So 25, 26, 27, and 28 have some wetlands on them. I think if I remember serves me correctly, the appraiser came back at $20,000 for those lots right there, basically because of usable acreage. And I sent the appraisals out. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 appraised at $130,000.
Yep.
Pardon?
Together.
Then we talk about 30 and 31. 30 and 31. If you can see on that, maybe you can see on the bigger map, is there's a fine line in there that talks about there is some wetlands in there, but there's a narrow strip there that hopefully we can either mitigate it or get permission to put a bridge or a span over it so we can use that usable acreage, because there's quite a bit of usable acreage once you get by that little piece. One alternative, and we'll come back with recommendations, is to combine lots 30 and 31 or to find permission to mitigate part of that. Any questions on what I've covered so far?
What does Copeland want?
16 through 20. Uh,
And the other thing, quick question there too, the IDA piece. You're gonna have to put a road through there to get to 24, 21, 22, 23, 24. You can start now and kissing the Corps of Engineers that gotta take the trees down, to get the road in there.
Oh, no, we won't put a road there.
Oh, we won't. Oh, I thought you said we were.
No, we won't. It would cost us that much to put it in.
Okay.
It would cost us probably 20 times to put a road in their infrastructure.
How do you get to 21?
Well, it would be what, preserve wetlands? Or swap for other,
Or helicopter?
but that's unbuildable. That's all unbuildable.
It's all unbuildable.
All unbuildable.
All right.
Even if you get Army Corps of Engineers, it's mostly unbuildable.
Okay.
Unbuildable. If you'd like to take a walk with me, I'll show it to you.
No, thanks.
I wasn't going to anyway. I've been halfway in there. I couldn't get much farther. 32 is usable. 33 and 34 are wetlands, can't be used. Remember, this is an old map, so it doesn't show all the wetlands. 33 and 34 are unusable. The thought is to combine those two properties with the mitigation behind it, make it one lot, and also because it'd be wetlands, we wouldn't have to pay sewer and water on it. Remember, each lot here, we're paying sewer and water on it. To the tune, I think, at least 14, maybe $20,000 a year total, which is going out, no revenue coming in. So 30 and 34, we combine. There's only about 2 or 3 acres on both those lots, so why spend any time on it? 7's okay. There is some wetlands at the back of that, but there is enough buildable acreage on that. 4 and 5, consideration was to mitigate some of that land, swap it someplace else, or the other idea is just combine 4 and 5 and make that one lot. Because 4 does have some wetlands on it in logging. Then lot 3 is uplands. That's the one that's going to Nolan Gas. They have hopefully their final planning board meeting Wednesday night. I hope it gets done. Seems that every time they get to a certain place, someone comes up with another brilliant idea, something to look at. So that's sort of the overall delineation. Basically, that's where we stand. We'll have more information. I'm talking to, I guess I got a meeting with NCS and Jared Engineering to talk about putting up some of these plans. There is some debris on 27 or 28. Maybe it's 29. 29, we did the logging, we left a bunch of stuff there. 29, which we're not quite sure yet. We may have to remove that. Consider talking to EchoStock and say, hey, take what you want. It's going to cost dollars to excavators in there to get that, get all that logging stuff out there. Maybe have a big bonfire someday.
Oh, no.
IDA cookout.
IDA cookout. Yeah.
So what are they, tree stumps? Tree stumps and
Tree stumps, stumps, logs, jump logs, piles of brush. The logger was supposed to take them away, and we tried to talk about doing that 2, 3, 4 years ago. And the upside was too expensive to sue them to get them to come in and take it away. That's where they stand. That stands. Any questions on that? More to come later. Logging the IDA park. There was some strong comments made about having logged something that shouldn't have been logged. We agreed to put a resolution together to say that the IDA would never log anything else in that park without approval of the Army Corps of Engineers. So that's why the reason for the resolution. It's just another path. The whole story of this, the whole background of this was supposed to have been taken care of twice, and somehow something got dropped and the ball got dropped. So we are playing a lot of catch up. So this was something that started in 1996, I think it was. For some reason, never got finished, or B, it was finished and no one can find the records. I know that Kara's firm has looked and looked and looked. Army Corps of Engineers has looked and can't find anything, but that's not surprising. They, just out of the office and records are sealed away. So that's the reason for the resolution. Any questions? Motion by Craig, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Grasso. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Kara brought me a resolution on Big Bay Road LLC, which is Adirondack Winery. I'll let her explain it.
Oh, for the winery?
Winery, yes.
So they closed on their project the end of July, and when they originally applied, they said that they would complete the project this month, but just due to a variety of issues, I think mostly COVID-related, construction, financing, their project has been pushed back, so they need an extension of their sales tax exemption through April 1st of 2022. They don't need to change the numbers or anything, they just need to extend the time.
And that's enough time.
Yeah, they said that that's more than enough time.
Motion by Craig, do I have a second? Nick? Need a roll call on this, please?
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan, Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. And I made up the agenda and I blew the order, so I'd like to have the executive director report, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, board members. Just a few updates. As was mentioned, I believe the last board meeting, we officially moved offices across the hall. I encourage all the board members to come by and check out the new office. Much more room, conference table to host meetings. So I encourage you to stop by. I did have a meeting with the Greenwich Chamber of Commerce, who have invited us to join them as a member, waiving their application fee. So that's a new outlet for us to advertise and certainly market with the rest of their members. I had scheduled a meeting of the Sales and Marketing Committee for next Thursday, the 26th. However, due to lack of attendees, I'm going to end up rescheduling that for sometime after Labor Day weekend. I'm continuing to meet with local bankers. I've completed 3. I've got 5 more scheduled in the next couple of weeks. Commercial banking representatives for all the local financial institutions, and that's going very well. We are continuing to review our UTAP policy. We have a meeting tomorrow to look at some of the details that we are interested in changing. Wednesday, there's a state of the housing meeting at SUNY Adirondack with Dr. Lawrence Yoon, which I will be attending on behalf of the IDA, which will give us some insight into some of the housing issues that we have discussed, both as a board and individually with one-on-one that I've discussed with some of you. And finally, I just want to thank the board members who have helped connect me with whether it be elected officials or the lawyers, the banking industry in the area. It's been incredibly helpful. Mike, I just want to thank you for the list of lawyers that you sent me last week. I appreciate that. And continuing to do outreach on behalf of the IDA. And I think we're making some pretty good headway over the last 6 to 8 weeks that I've been here. And unless there's any questions, I don't have anything further.
Is the marketing committee still the same?
In terms of members,
Yes.
as far as I know, yes.
Still the same one?
I think Mr. Biddle was on there too.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Did I miss
Get
anyone?
on the 10.
Did I miss anyone?
Wasn't Ginny?
Yes.
Ginny.
Ginny.
Ginny,
Yes, yep.
Ginny got the bankers.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Dan.
Nick, like, in the little. You were around.
I'm a member of all committees. By default.
That's true.
I was hoping the bylaws said differently. Okay, any other questions on that? Any questions for Mike? He's coming along. We finally figured out how to connect his printer to that. That's a joke. We have two printers and the other one just wasn't hooked up to the network, so. We'll see. Craig, could you do the Weston and Sampson update?
Yeah, thank you. I must admit, I'm going to have to refer to you by the time I got on the meeting and sending up. Both of it.
Oh, basically, it's a quick meeting, talk about what they're doing, what they were doing to catch up. They're getting ready to do the final report.
Preliminary.
I got an email today asking a couple, 2 or 3 questions, which I've answered one. The other one I got to answer when I get home. They're going to provide copies of the report. Do we want copies of the report just electronically to circulate or paper?
I'd say this is the preliminary report, so electronic should do. You could always get printed out and distributed if you need.
So I think the final report's due by the end of the month, so we can line this up and get reimbursed by National Grid. I think we got all, we may have all reimbursement from USDA at this point.
Basically, they build their 3/4 of their full bill.
ICC4, we have a continual struggle with ICC4. They paid their village taxes in June of last year and in January. We sent them threatening letters, told them if they didn't get back the thing on time, we do recapture. I don't remember, I didn't look. When did they finally pay their town and county taxes?
April?
April?
Mhm.
So it's 2 or 3 months late. The current village taxes, they still haven't paid. Even more considering, I sent them a letter, I sent them emails, and I've heard nothing responding on the village. I've gotten calls from town of Cambridge looking for their money. I said, we're not going to pay until they pay, which is our standard policy. But I think we need to find something that leverage to say, hey, you got to pay on time. And it makes us look bad as the ones handling the pilots. The only other one did pay his village taxes, just opened up in Greenwich, but they've since made their village taxes good. So, yeah, Alie. Tara, what do you recommend at this point?
Well, you can either you can either put them in default and terminate them from the pilot program. I mean, they have not been really agreeable to any of the other suggestions about payment. I think we already went over with them the possibility of escrowing or doing some sort of escrow arrangement, but that's, I understand it's gonna be the same issue chasing them to get those escrow payments. I mean, I don't think that that's gonna encourage them to make timely payments. They'll just be chasing after those if they continue in the same manner.
Well, last time they made a commitment to make the payments on time, that was the school taxes and county and town taxes. Here we got school taxes coming up in another couple of weeks.
How much money are we talking about?
Memory serves me correctly, the village tax is 12,000, which means the school taxes, I don't remember. Do you remember, Ellie?
I don't, because it was last year's village taxes, this year's town and county, and last year's school taxes. They were late on all three of their 2020 taxes that they finally squared up beginning of this year, only to be late for their village taxes once again.
I'm not so much concerned about the money. But if somebody gets a hold of that and finds out we're dragging our feet in collecting the money, that's public relations nonsense. We don't need that. I'd rather look like Scrooge stealing money back than not do anything, because that's bad PR. If somebody gets a hold of that, we're dead. It's gonna be headline news for a month.
Are they a successful business?
They do adult living,
Yeah, I think. that
and they have assisted care. And I'm not sure how bad they were affected during COVID. People still had to live places, they still got their payments from the state.
The
from Medicare, Cambridge Hotel, right?
Well, our new guy is 6'6" tall. Give him a billy club, send him over there and get the money. I just don't think we should be doing it. It's just something it's something that's gonna trip us up.
So,
What is the pilot worth to them?
well,
They
the
just started their first year on 50%, right? Something.
Off the top of my head.
I think they just started their first year in a transition, so they're paying a little bit more this next year than they had.
Or not.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I will say that they also had a loan through the LDC, which is grant money from CDBG. That was, if memory serves me correctly, low six figures. The federal government wrote that off. Not because they wrote this one off specifically, all the CDBG grants were terminated, and they didn't have to pay that money back. So that was $100 and some odd thousand for the gain over and above that. So here's my suggestion. My suggestion is Kara draft them a letter saying that if we do not receive full payment of the village tax and the school taxes by October 1st, which is the due date for school taxes, I believe. Yeah, September 30th, well, give them an extra day. You might cross them now.
I think October 1st is when we get the first hit.
The first penalty.
First penalty. We will immediately begin recapture, terminate pilot, begin recapture of all funds according to our recapture policy.
So this is a facility, this is a building. Large building,
Cambridge Hotel, if you remember that.
Cambridge Hotel. So that's why the taxes are in that rate.
Yes, that's
And
good.
is it full?
I don't know, I can't talk to him. No one, he doesn't talk to me. Then if you get a hold of him, all he can tell you,
It's impossible.
it's impossible.
I think
Who's the contact?
George Scala. And his partner was Kirsten or Kristen. Kristen. I've left message. Well, I can't leave messages because the mailbox is full.
Are they even viable at this time?
You know, I live in that part of the county. It's really important to have a person on there. So, on their behalf. Forget that.
A letter like that could bring it back to the table.
registered.
Registered. Usually we get both parties, Kirsten and him.
I can sit.
Usually Kirsten is usually very responsive. And she gets hold of George. I called her a dozen times, goes to no voicemail. There goes voicemail, but it's full. I don't have her email address. So
It's not a good, that's never a good sign. When the voicemail is full.
So, so we would like to formulate a resolution that says we'll send out a message if they're not up to date on taxes by October 1st. We will begin recapture, terminate the pilot, and begin recapture.
I move it.
Moved by Nick, second by Dan Bruno. I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Jenny Sullivan,
Yes.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King,
Yes.
Nick Carmano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Okay, I know, here I'll figure out the language. And we can wait a copy of the resolution and send a copy of the resolution with it. Okay. All right. I've come to the end of my agenda. Does anyone else have else to bring up for the pleasure of the meeting? Yes.
So this is just technical one on the profit loss and balance sheets here. Do we use an accrual method or a modified accrual account sheet system, or is it good cash?
Modified accrual.
It is modified accrual.
Modify now.
Find an accountant and ask them that question.
I will.
So I do like how towns are done.
Say again?
Do like how the towns
Okay.
are done. But, yeah, and I ask that because the LBC ones come through and they're on full accrual.
Mhm.
So even though you haven't received the cash, it looks like you have. And that's the difference on this, that when you get the cash, you book it on the modified. Yeah. You don't think you're gonna get it.
So. Good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Move.
You can get your dinner. Second. San Bruno, all in favor?